What do you want me to do for you? Can you see Jesus walking through our glass doors up this aisle? Right up those steps and standing here, turning around, looking at each one of us. And asking, what do you want me to do for you? How would you feel? What would you say? I will never forget the first time I heard those words spoken directly to me through human lips. An Episcopal priest whom I had been pestering for months and months to be my spiritual director. 5 or 6 times I had bothered this guy. And he kept saying, no, absolutely not. I am not a spiritual director. I do not do spiritual direction. Leave me alone. Well, some months went by and I thought, well, I'm going to give it one last try. So I called him. He answered the phone. We had a little bit of small talk. And he finally said, all right, Debra, what do you want me to do for you? Well, those words just made me speechless. They penetrated to my core. Nothing so incredibly generous had ever been said to me. What do you want me to do for you? I couldn't speak because those words deserved nothing less than the deepest truth of myself. How dare I speak that out loud? I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not holy enough. Those words, what do you want me to do for you, peeled back the curtain that was veiling this conglomerate, this chorus of malevolent voices. Voices bent on keeping me locked in and locked out, cloistered, divorced from God. I could barely breathe, actually. So I sort of stuttered and stammered, and it was really kind of pathetic when you think about it. I finally squeaked out, well, if you could sort of help me figure out how God is acting in my life, and maybe what I should do about that. It was pitifully apologetic. The twisting in my stomach and the knot in my throat were like these giant red flags saying, oh, Debra, what have you done? Now you're in trouble. And that brings us to today's gospel text, to the curbside outside city limits of Jericho. Jesus and the disciples have been coming and going in and out of Jericho, in contrast to Bartimaeus. Oh, Bartimaeus, his blindness sandbags him to the curb outside city limits. And he's sitting outside city limits on the curb, not only because he cannot see, but also because the voices of his culture insist that being afflicted with blindness is sure and certain evidence that he or someone in his family did something terrible. Therefore, he's unworthy. He's unclean. He's unfit to be part of society. So he has no voice. He has no place. You stay over there on the curb. But you see, in spite of all those voices shouting at him from outside, and no doubt he'd incorporated them inside, something, a little flicker, a flare, a flame of hope must have been deep inside Bartimaeus, because he rebels against that chorus of afflicting voices that are shouting, you're unclean, you're unworthy, you're not good enough. Get out of here. You're not holy. How dare you speak and call out to the prophet? But when Bartimaeus hears that Jesus is nearby, somehow he musters the mettle to leap off of that curb and shout above those voices that are sternly ordering him to be quiet, "Son of David, have mercy on me." And he keeps shouting, "Son of David, have mercy on me," until Jesus stops in his tracks and he stands still and he watches this Bartimaeus spring to his feet, throw off his cloak. Now, why does that matter? It matters because without hesitation, Bartimaeus has thrown off what is likely the only possession he has in the whole wide world. And not only that, in that one fell swoop, he cast off every limiting social prescription about who he is. You're a blind man. You're unclean. You have no place. You have no voice here. You're a sinner. You have no business calling out to the Son of David. How dare you? Who do you think you are? Now let me give you a little context for all of this. From our 21st century perspective, blindness is a biomedical situation. It's a problem that the sightless person is unable to function. And so healing involves restoring the sightless person's ability to function. Well, 2,000 years ago in Palestine, blindness was not a biomedical problem. It was a social problem. Hence, healing involved being restored to a place in the community, in society. Now, this is not an anomalous situation with Bartimaeus. As we walk and do the journey through the Mark and Gospel text with Jesus, time and time again, where we meet people who are seeking healing. And every time their healing culminates in being restored to relationship, being returned home or to community. Jesus heals a man with a dreaded skin disease. What does he do? He touches him. Relationship. And then sends him to a priest to be ritually cleaned, because that's the process for getting back into the community. And then he returns to community, to his home. Seeing the faith of folks who are carrying a paralyzed man on a stretcher, Jesus heals the man. And what does he do? He sends him home. When a woman who's been bleeding for 12 years, meaning she's been isolated, she is an untouchable, she reaches out and touches Jesus, and she's healed. It is her breaking the taboo about touching, about being in relationship, about being worthy, that heals her. And Jesus affirms, "Your faith has made you well. Go in peace." After touching and healing yet another blind man in Bethsaida, Jesus sends the man away to go home. The overarching message is faith makes us well by restoring us to right relationship with God and community. So when we choose to live by faith, we are able to break through the physical, the social, the emotional, and the religious taboos that curb and constrain us. When we choose to live by faith, we can stop listening to those voices prohibiting us from participating in the fullness of life. And we've all heard those voices. You're not enough. You are too much, You're not smart enough. You're not rich enough. You're too smart. You're too smart for your own good. You're too rich. You've had too much education, not enough education, the wrong kind of education. Oh yeah, and you're not holy, or you're too pious. We've heard those voices, yeah? Well, here's the thing. Faith, what sometimes Jesus refers to as belief in this gospel, faith, is kin to hope. The two go together. Hope in the possibility of what can be. Faith fosters a kind of fearlessness that enables us to leap off the curb at the sidelines of life and boldly answer the question, what do you want me to do for you? To people of God, do you dare to leap out of your comfortable ruts and admit the deepest desire of your heart? Are you willing to cast off all the constraints that limit your idea of who and whose you are? Are you ready to live by faith? To live by faith and be restored to right relationship with your neighbor, the world, and God? Will you answer the question? What do you want me to do for you? I bid you take it home and ponder it in the deepest place in your heart. It was years ago when I answered that old priest question, what do you want me to do for you? And it pulled back the curtain and exposed the voices of my family and friends and colleagues and society and church, those voices that were shouting from the inside of me because I had incorporated them to stay in my place. My daughter lovingly says, stay in your cage. Stay in my place, not make waves, not upset the apple cart. But here's the thing. Had I not leapt off the sidelines of my life and answered that question, I would not be standing here today, living the deepest desire of my heart with you. Amen.